You beg, you explain, you ask nicely, and they still say no. That's not bad luck, that's a design flaw, and it's yours. Every direct request is a surrender flag. You hand them full control of the outcome, and some circuit in their skull screams no before you finish the sentence. Psychologists call it reactance. Tell a person what to do, and their brain treats it like an attack. This isn't a personality flaw. It's wiring every human shares, from the boardroom to the bedroom to the schoolyard. You've seen it play out 100 times. The kid who slams the door the second you say clean your room. The employee who nods in the meeting, then quietly sabotages the deadline. The friend who just checks in and watches the replies get shorter every single time. Why do you keep calling this bad luck? You've spent years asking, explaining, hoping, and calling the silence that follows an accident. Machiavelli spent decades inside the bloodiest courts in Renaissance Italy. He watched princes rise. He watched princes get strangled in their sleep. His conclusion was brutal and simple. The ones who beg, lose. The ones who engineer desire win. He never wrote a single chapter on asking nicely. Here's what you've been avoiding. Your need isn't the problem. Your request is the problem. Every time you ask directly, you announce your hand, and you hand them the power to crush it. Tonight, 7 mechanisms, 7 ways to move people without ever asking directly. The invisible leash, the forbidden fruit, the doubt dagger, the cold withdrawal, the illusion of choice, the information vault, the patience trap. The patience trap is the principle almost nobody masters, because it demands something the modern world bred out of you. Restraint. Master all 7, and you stop reacting to people. You start designing the room they make decisions in. Stay until the end. That final principle alone will change how you negotiate for the rest of your life. 1. The invisible leash. Here's the mechanism. The human mind guards its own freedom like a wolf guards a kill. Threaten that freedom, even with a small request, and the wolf bares its teeth. This is reactance. It's automatic. It's older than language. Ask yourself this question. When was the last time someone said, you have to, and you actually wanted to? Machiavelli understood this 500 years before psychology had a name for it. He wrote it plainly. He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command. Real command was never about volume. It was about architecture. You don't push the wolf. You build the fence so the wolf believes the field beyond it was always its own idea. Here's your tactic. Stop saying, you should. Start saying, I don't know if this is for you. Present the outcome as a door, not an order. Let them walk through it themselves. A door they open feels like freedom. A door you push them through feels like a cage. Picture this. You want your team to adopt a new process. Announce it as policy, and half the room resists by Friday. Frame it instead. I'm not sure this fits how we already work, but I want your read on it. And 3 people volunteer to pilot it by lunch. 1 warning. Don't overuse this. Offer too many doors, too often, and people sense the pattern. The fence stops working. Save it for the moments that actually matter. But removing the leash only stops them from running. It doesn't pull them toward you. For that, you need something older. Something that's been driving human behavior since the Garden of Eden. 2. The forbidden fruit tells someone they can have anything. Watch them want nothing in particular. Tell them they can't have one specific thing. Watch that one thing become the only thing they can think about. This isn't a metaphor. This is neurology. Scarcity doesn't just increase desire. It hijacks perceived value. The brain uses availability as a shortcut for worth. Rare equals valuable, no matter what the thing actually is. Machiavelli lived this truth in every court he studied. Never was anything great achieved without danger, he wrote. And danger, scarcity, risk, they're cousins. All 3 whisper the same lie to the brain. This might not last, so it must matter. Here's your tactic. Stop being available. Stop over-explaining. When you want someone to move toward an idea, a decision, or you, remove the sense that it will always be there. Say less about why they should want it. Say more about the fact that it's limited. closing, already being considered by someone else. Picture a founder pitching investors. The one who says we have room for one more check this round fills that round in a week. The one who says we'd love your investment, please consider it, waits months for a reply that never comes. Have you ever wanted a door more the second someone said it was closing? Watch the hyenas circle a carcass. They don't want it more because it's delicious. They want it more because 3 other hyenas are circling too. One warning: manufactured scarcity that turns out false burns trust for good. The deadline has to be real, or real enough that you'd defend it under questioning. But scarcity alone stalls out if your target doesn't trust their own judgment enough to chase. Which brings you to the weapon that doesn't just create desire, it creates obligation. 3. The doubt dagger. Here's a truth about ego. It cannot leave a challenge unanswered. Tell a lion it can't hunt, and it will hunt something twice its size, just to prove you wrong. This is cognitive dissonance in its rawest form. When your self-image gets challenged, your brain doesn't sit with the discomfort. It acts to resolve it immediately, usually by proving the challenge false. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few know what you really are." Most people perform competence in public while doubting it in private. That gap between the performance and the private doubt is your opening. Here's your tactic. Voice a small, plausible doubt about their ability to do the exact thing you want them to do. Not an insult. A soft, almost caring uncertainty. "I don't know if you're ready for this one." Then step back. This is a surgical cut, not a wound. You are not attacking them. You are handing them a mirror they cannot look away from. Picture a mentor and a junior employee stuck on a hard assignment. Say, "Take your time, this one's difficult," and watch them coast. Say, "This one might be above where you are right now," and watch them stay up past midnight to prove otherwise. Have you ever tried harder at something specifically because someone doubted you? That wasn't coincidence. That was cognitive dissonance doing exactly what it evolved to do. Use this once per relationship, not once a week. Overuse it, and the mirror cracks. They stop trusting your read on them at all. If this is already reshaping how you replay your last conversation, hit subscribe now. Principles 5 and 6 are the ones almost nobody on this platform actually teaches. But this dagger has a flaw. Use it on the wrong person at the wrong moment, and you build resentment instead of drive. Which is exactly why the next principle exists. Not to control what they feel, to control how much of you they get to see while feeling it. 4. The cold withdrawal predators don't chase what runs toward them. They chase what runs away. This is loss aversion, one of the most consistent forces in human decision-making. Losing something feels roughly twice as painful as gaining the same thing feels good. Your brain was never built to evaluate fairly. It was built to avoid loss at almost any cost. Machiavelli knew exactly which side of that equation to stand on. "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both," he wrote. Not because love is worthless, because love can be taken for granted. Fear of loss cannot. Here's your tactic. The moment you feel someone pulling toward dependence, pull back, go quiet. Reduce your availability, not out of anger, out of discipline. This is a tactical retreat, not abandonment. Let them feel the space where your attention used to sit. Picture 2 people texting. The one who replies within 60 seconds every time becomes background noise. The one who replies when they decide to becomes the center of attention. Availability is not romance. Availability is inventory. And inventory that's always in stock gets ignored. One warning: this isn't ghosting. Ghosting is silence with no plan behind it. This is silence with a return date already fixed in your own head. Count to 3. Watch what happens. Most people in that silence move toward you faster than they ever did when you were reaching for them. This is not cruelty. This is architecture. You are not removing affection. You are removing certainty. and certainty kills desire faster than anything else on earth. But withdrawal only works if they believed they had you in the first place, which means before you pull away, you need to hand them something that looks like control. That's next. 5. The illusion of choice. Nobody resists a decision they believe they made themselves. This is the covert contract, an unspoken agreement where you shape the options, and they believe they chose freely between them. You are not removing their choice, you are curating it before it ever reaches them. Machiavelli wrote about the fragility of open promises. The promise given was a necessity of the past, the word broken, a necessity of the present. Direct commitments erode the second circumstances shift, but a choice someone believes was their own idea, that holds, because defending it means defending their own judgment, not yours. Here's your tactic. Never present one option, present two, and design both to land you in the same place. We could do it this weekend, or next Tuesday, when next Tuesday was always your actual target. They feel agency. You engineered the outcome before the conversation even started. Picture a parent and a child who refuses vegetables. Eat your broccoli, starts a war. Do you want the broccoli or the carrots first? Ends one. Because the child is no longer fighting whether to eat vegetables. They're just picking an order. One warning. Both options have to be ones you can genuinely live with. Fake one of them, and they'll feel the trap, and inspect every choice you offer after that, twice as hard. How many decisions have you made this month that were actually framed for you by someone else from the very first sentence? This is where the fox in you has to wake up, because the illusion of choice only works if you understand what your target actually values. And that means you need information, real information. More than they think you have. 6. The information vault. Here is the oldest rule of every negotiation that has ever mattered. The person who reveals less controls more. This is information asymmetry. It's not a debate tactic. It's a survival tactic. In every court Machiavelli studied, the advisors who lasted were never the ones who said everything they knew. They were the ones who said just enough to be useful and kept the rest sealed. He wrote it through the animal he chose to represent cunning itself. One must be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. The fox doesn't announce where the traps are. It simply doesn't step in them, and lets everyone else wonder how it always seems to know more. Here's your tactic. Stop narrating your full reasoning. When someone asks why you want something, resist the urge to explain completely. Give them 30% of your thinking. Let the other 70 stay locked. Need to know basis, and they don't need to know. Picture a salary negotiation. The candidate who states a number first hands the other side a ceiling to negotiate down from. The candidate who says, "I'm confident we'll land somewhere fair," hands them nothing to aim at, and usually walks away with more. Ask yourself this question: why do you feel the need to justify every single move you make? The prey animal shows every card because it's desperate to be understood. The predator doesn't need to be understood. It only needs to be effective. One warning: a vault that's always locked reads as evasive, not powerful. Open it fully on your own terms once trust is already built, or the mystery curdles into suspicion. But information you're sitting on is worthless if you spend it all at once, out of impatience. Which brings you to the final principle, the one that separates the amateurs from the ones who actually win. 7. The patience trap. Here's the principle that ends most people before they even start. They learn 6 weapons, then they rush the 7th, the way an amateur rushes the final move of a match they've already won in their head. Sun Tzu wrote it 1,000 years before Machiavelli. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. No target surrenders in one move. No mind changes in one conversation. This requires what psychologists call shadow integration, consciously owning the self-interested, strategic part of your own nature, instead of pretending it doesn't exist. The amateur denies they're playing a game at all, then plays it badly. out of shame. The strategist admits the game is real and plays it with discipline instead of desperation. Here's your tactic. When you've planted a seed, the doubt, the scarcity, the choice, the silence, stop. Do not check on it. Do not water it twice. Let time do the work that pressure cannot. Picture a chess player who sees checkmate in 4 moves and rushes all 4 in one turn, sloppy, impatient. The opponent finds the one gap that rush created. The player who saw the same 4 moves and closed each one, slowly on its own timeline. That player wins clean, and the opponent never even sees it coming. The fox that circles back too soon spooks the very prey it already had one warning. Patience is not passivity. Passivity waits and hopes. Patience waits and works, controlling every other part of the field while the seed you planted grows on its own schedule. How many good moves have you ruined by making a second one too early, out of anxiety? Master this, and the other 6 principles stop being tricks. They become instinct. 7 principles. 1 transformation. You now know why direct requests fail. Reactance kills them before they land. You know why scarcity works. Why doubt cuts deeper than commands. Why withdrawal pulls harder than pursuit ever could. You know how to build a choice that was never really a choice. You know how to keep 70% of yourself locked in the vault. And you know the discipline that makes all 6 of the others actually work. Patience. Each principle alone bends a single conversation. All 7 together bend a relationship, or a negotiation, or a room full of people who still think they're the ones in control. Here's what happens if you close this video and change nothing. Tomorrow, you ask directly again. You get the same door, closed the same way, by the same reactance that's been running the show your entire life. And somewhere in your life, right now, someone is already running Principle 4 or Principle 6 on you, and you don't even notice. That's the real cost of staying an amateur here. Not that you lose one argument, it's that you stay blind to the game being run on you every day by people who learned this philosophy years before you did. This is bigger than one negotiation, or one conversation, or one relationship. It's about whether you spend your life architecting outcomes or supplying the raw material for someone else's plan. There is no neutral option. Someone is always running the board. The only real question is whether it's you. Nothing changes, because information without application is just entertainment. And you didn't come here to be entertained. You came here to stop losing. The wolves who understand these 7 principles aren't cruel. They are simply no longer prey. The stories now. Next week breaks down the single most dangerous psychological weapon in Machiavelli's entire arsenal, the one even seasoned strategists underestimate. And before you go, prove you actually absorbed this. Write Iron Mirror in the comments below. Nowhere else, only there. If you're done asking and ready to start architecting, I'll see you in the next one.